The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. Yeah!
Hi, and welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. So I'm going to continue my conversation with Fred Schweer, who's the Vice President of Marketing over at PoolRx. We're going to go over the booster, and we're going to go over some other benefits of the PoolRx, and we'll also address the compatibility issues with PoolRx with other chemicals and products. And I think if you haven't tuned into the first part, you definitely want to listen to that first, and then you continue on here with this podcast. So I'm going to jump right in here and continue the conversation with Fred Schweer. Pool Service Pro. Open a Leslie's wholesale account today and receive wholesale pricing on products you use every day. Leslie's Pool Supply offers convenient locations that are open 7 days a week. Another great benefit of opening a Leslie's wholesale account is Leslie's referral program. Get referred to a customer looking for weekly pool service. Save time and money and grow your pool service route and become a Leslie's Pro. And then let's just back up a little bit. You talked about how long it lasts in the pool. We could touch on the booster right now too. But what's the average? Okay, everything's different. I mean, you might have dogs swimming in the pool. You might have heavy usage. You might be in an area where there's a lot of phosphates that get in the water. So, Of course, the usage, the amount, how long it lasts kind of depends on each pool specifically. But rule of thumb, how long would you expect the PoolRx unit to last in the pool, and how would you utilize a booster?
Yeah, so the minerals inside of the unit, they dissolve immediately and completely into the water, and they kill and prevent the algae. And then as the water flows over that unit, it reionizes the minerals to allow them to last for up to 6 months. And so we say up to 6 months because, as you mentioned, there are variables there. And I talked about, sizing is important. Starting with a clean filter is important. And then also the minerals do get used up from killing algae. So the harder the minerals work, the shorter the lifespan of that mineral. So over time, the minerals do get used up and filtered out. And then when you clean your filter, they're out of the water. Typically, the minerals are going to last about 6 months. Again, if you have a variety of different conditions that I mentioned previously, then it could be less. The booster is just extra mineral that you can add to the pool when you need to. And because the minerals cannot be tested for accurately, the question is, well, how do I know when to add the booster? And you're going to know to add a booster based really on three basic factors. Number one, your chlorine demand is going to start going back up. And what I mean by that is as the minerals get used up and filtered out, they're being reduced in the water. And that's when that microalgae I talked about can start growing again. And as that microalgae is able to grow again, the chlorine is going to be used up faster and faster. And so it's going to be taking you more and more chlorine to reach your target part per million. The chlorine won't last as long as it used to be lasting. That's the number one noticeable sign. The second noticeable sign, say the second week you come back to that pool, you're noticing, hey, my water's kind of looking dull, kind of cloudy, even though I have a good pH, I have a good free chlorine residual, it's just not looking good. That's the second sign that it's time for booster minerals. And then the third visible sign is if you ever see any hint of algae, a little green tinge to the water, a little mustard spot, you're overdue to add a booster. And the good thing about the booster is all you do is, you open up the jar. Well, first you clean your filter, you open up that jar. It's a pressed granular tablet. You just dump that tablet into the skimmer or the pump basket and run your pump for a few hours so it completely dissolves. And once that mineral concentration, those minerals get into the water, it will raise the mineral content in the water, and you'll be, crystal clear within 24 hours of those booster minerals being added. The booster minerals then are reionized as they pass over that original PoolRx unit. So you want to leave that empty PoolRx unit in that pump basket. It's effective to recharge minerals in the water for about 12 months in the water. Over time, the unit loses its connectivity with those minerals. It gets scaled and corroded over time. And so you need to replace the PoolRx unit once a year and then have a booster on hand for when you need it later in the season. But the booster is great. It's it's about half the price of a typical PoolRx unit, and again, very easy to use. It's good to just have on your truck just in case, or to have in your closet for when you need it if you're a homeowner. But the booster is also not just for longer seasons. It's also for larger pools. So we have, like I mentioned earlier, we have the blue and the black units, 7,500 to 20,000 on the blue and 20 to 30,000 on the black. If you have a pool above 30,000, you're going to need to dose it with additional booster minerals. So Again, a 40,000 gallon pool, you could, go with either two blue units or a blue and a booster. 50,000 gallon pool, you can go with a black and a blue booster. And I do want to bring up something new that's out this year, which we have the black booster. The black booster, again, is 12 ounces of mineral that matches the 12 ounces in the black unit. So we have a blue unit and a blue booster, 8 ounces each. And then we have a black unit and a black booster, which are 12 ounces each. So between those you can kind of mix and match based on your needs for larger pools. And then again, keep in mind, if you have a green pool, we can get you cleared up with a PoolRx unit, but you're going to need a booster sooner than that 6-month time frame, just simply because some of that mineral does get used up, getting you from green to clear. So that's the reason. Those are kind of the 3 reasons for the booster: longer seasons, tough conditions, or larger pools.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I think that's going to help the listeners know when to use the booster. And it's kind of a mystery to a lot of people when you see that little booster unit. So that kind of clears it up.
Yeah, good.
So let's talk about compatibility. So PoolRx is compatible with UV, ozone, saltwater generators, borates, enzyme phosphates. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, that is correct. I did hear you mention phosphate removers. So yeah, we're good with UV and ozone systems. Fantastic. As you know, the UV and ozone is working for a few seconds, in the water, and then as that water returns to the pool, it's exposed to the elements, and that's where our minerals are working for you. Our minerals are in solution throughout the entire body of water, so very beneficial to add PoolRx to any type of UV, ozone, AOP systems. Saltwater generators, saltwater systems, fantastic with saltwater. Again, our minerals are uniquely chelated, so they're protected from that high pH environment of a salt pool. As we know, that salt chlorine generator is producing, a pH of 13 coming off the salt cell, the chlorine level. And so that always drives up that pH. So we're safe to use there. The other benefits to saltwater pools is that you can turn down that salt chlorine generator typically by about 50% of its previous setting. And that's, like I mentioned earlier, we're really freeing up that chlorine to be more available. So you're going to be able to use less and still maintain a good residual. And by producing less high pH chlorine, you're going to be able to add less acid to balance that pH. So it's a benefit by saving you money on your acid demand as well. And the third benefit is that there is some zinc in our product, and that zinc is a natural descaler. What it does, it's going to prevent that calcium scale from attaching to the salt cell as easily. So you're not going to be having to clean your salt chlorine generator as frequently, that cell, and that's going to, less generation and less cleaning of that cell is going to prolong the life of that equipment. So lots of benefits to the salt pool customer. And then, as far as with borates, again, if you'd like to use borates, that's fine. I get it. We're really more of a less is more approach. Not necessary with us. We are your algicide. You're going to be able to use less, less of everything. But borates are compatible. I get it if you're trying to, buffer your pH a little bit, make that water feel a little softer. I get it, but it's not necessary. And then as phosphates, phosphates are food for algae, right? And you can use phosphate remover with our product. Again, it's not necessary. If you're using phosphate remover to try to prevent algae or starve the algae, it's just not necessary. Again, phosphates are food for algae, and phosphates themselves do not consume chlorine. What consumes chlorine is that microalgae that the phosphates are feeding. And so when PoolRx is in the water, there's no longer algae in that water. And so it doesn't matter how high your phosphate levels get. Again, you're going to be algae free using less chlorine with PoolRx, and your phosphate levels will end up going off the charts because you're not going to have to test or treat for them anymore. And so that's a product that's not necessary when using PoolRx. Again, it's compatible. If you'd like to keep an eye on phosphates and keep those down, you can, but it's just not necessary when using our product. I do know, I hear a lot of salt chlorine generator manufacturers talk about, that the phosphates interfere with the salt chlorine production. And if you want to continue using phosphate removers with salt pools, that's fine. Again, there's no adverse interaction there, but it's not a necessary thing when you're using PoolRx.
What about enzymes? That's pretty popular too.
Yeah, and enzymes are fine. Absolutely. If you want to use enzymes, you can. So that's up to you. There's no adverse reaction there. I get it. You're breaking down what the enzymes do. I understand. The benefits there. So that's up to you. That's a case by case.
Yeah, and then I guess on the flip side, what would be non-compatible or incompatible, I guess I should say, with
Yeah.
PoolRx?
So yep. So again, like I mentioned earlier, you don't want to use any other copper-based products. You also don't want to use sodium bromide. Sodium bromide is not compatible. It would burn our minerals out of the water. So you wouldn't have to use that product anymore. That's in a couple algicides out there that are just, you'd be switching away from sodium bromide to PoolRx. You wouldn't be using it anymore. So also not compatible with bromine. For spas, hot tubs and spas, we do have our spa units. We have two sizes there, a 100 to 400 gallon unit and a 400 to 1,000 gallon that are great for spas, hot tubs, fountains. But you would not want to use those products with bromine. It's just going to be a kind of a yellow tinge to the water or some foaming. That's the reaction with the minerals in the water. It's not dangerous, but not a good look. So all types of chlorine are good. No bromine, no sodium bromide, no copper, and everything else, you're pretty good to go. One other thing to note regarding chlorine is calcium hypochlorite, cal hypo. I know the price of that particular chlorine has gone up quite a bit, so people are probably shying away from it. But you are going to want to use that product as advertised. Some of those cal hypos, they're not all made the same. To err on the safe side, I would dissolve and dilute the cal hypo into a bucket of water before pouring into the pool. If not, depending on the type of cal hypo, if it just settles to the bottom, you may see it instantly oxidize and it turns black. You'll see these little black dots all over where that granular cal hypo was, and that can be totally avoided if you just dissolve and dilute into like a 5-gallon bucket of water the cal hypo before pouring into the deep end of the pool. I know a lot of products out there, like the Leslie's brand product, the Power Powder, doesn't have that issue because it dissolves so quickly. The other cal hypos, cheaper stuff on the market, you want to be aware of that. To avoid that, again, that cal hypooxidation will eventually go away, but to avoid that, I would dissolve and dilute it before you pour it in.
Yeah, I think to recap for the listeners, PoolRx is going to help reduce the amount of chlorine you're going to use, prevent algae in the pool, and basically the unit will pay for itself over the season because of the high chlorine prices. I mean, we're talking, in the industry the last 3 years, a 200% increase in a lot of the chlorine types. And the algicides, you're going to save money on that. You mentioned a bunch of stuff that was not compatible. They were all mostly algicides that are used to prevent algae and like copper-based algicides, sodium bromide, and those things. So you wouldn't need any of that. You wouldn't need phosphate removers unless you wanted to keep using it. And basically, the cost of the unit is going to pay for itself in savings. Is that a kind of a correct summary?
Absolutely. It's really the most cost-effective way to manage pools. I mean, it's a preventative maintenance product that reduces your chemical demand on your pool. I mean, like I said, it reduces chlorine demand by about 50%. We only need a 0.5 part per million of free chlorine minimum. Higher levels are okay too. It's going to take you physically less chlorine to reach those. You're not going to have to worry about phosphates, so you're not using a phosphate remover. You're not having to use a clarifier. You're not having to use other algicides. So yeah, I mean it's a chemical saving story, and the nice part about it is these minerals are working for you. Especially the service guys out there, they're in the water. You're only at that pool once a week, and these minerals are working for you and your customer, even when you can't be. So it's a great extra layer of support and insurance policy against algae, and of course, it's going to keep your water clear and safe longer than it would without PoolRx in that water. So it's really for the price of our product and the price of everything else out there, it pays for itself, within the first several weeks compared to what you're doing. It's highly cost effective and it really saves you time and money at every pool.
And I should emphasize too, for the Pool Pro, you're billing the customer for an annual algicide. The PoolRx would be that annual algicide you're billing for. And it's a lot easier than borates. I mean, I like borates, but then you buy a 50-pound bucket. It's kind of hard to charge a customer for that, and you have to recharge it sometimes in the water. Whereas PoolRx is a physical unit. You can show the customer, I'm putting this in your pool. it's like a really nice looking product, and you can just sell to the customer at the beginning of the season, maybe sell them a booster when they need it. So for the pool pro out there, and you have literature on your site that helps explain how they can talk to the customer about the product. But I think for the pool pro, it's an easy way to, of course, save on chlorine for the customer and for themselves. But it's an easy sell, I'm trying to say, basically.
Yeah, absolutely it is. It benefits the customer as well as the service professional. So it's really a win-win for both parties. Yeah, if service customers want, service pros want more information, they can email CS, as in customer service, at PoolRx.com, CS at PoolRx.com, and that will be directed over to me, and I can answer any of your questions out there. And if you are looking for more information on how to sell, definitely reach out to me, and I can help you, message that to your customer. But it's a pretty easy sell, and once you get it in the pool, the results, the wow factor is real. The water really sparkles, and your customer is going to love it. So pretty awesome. The other thing I want to bring up, David, as we got a chance here, we do have a spring sales promotion that's happening right now through all of our distributor partners. It starts March 1st through April 30th. We are going to have these discounts available through all of our participating distributors nationwide for these next 2 months. So when you're asking for PoolRx, make sure you're asking for the PoolRx coupons or discounts on each product that you want to purchase.
And that's something that you always do every spring before the season. So, whenever
Yep.
they tune into the podcast, they know pretty much that March and April is when you have your discounts.
Yeah, it's the best time to, you're going to be wanting to ask, if you're a service pro, you're going to be wanting to ask for the 4-packs. They are the lowest cost average per unit. Yeah, this is the time when a lot of guys, they shop it around, they get the best price, and then they add that coupon, that discount to it from PoolRx, and they're buying in volume to put a PoolRx in every pool. So this is the time to do it.
Yeah. So, well, thank you again, Fred, for coming on here and going over your product. I think it's really important to revisit this every year for people for a number of reasons, and to put it back on the radar of the pool pro, especially with the cost of chlorine being just incredibly high the last 3 years. It's just, and I don't think, personally, I kind of have my ear to the track. I don't think the prices of chlorine are ever going to go back down to 2019 levels. That's just, when someone raises the prices, when's the last time you bought a car and it was cheaper than 2 years before? It just doesn't go the other direction. Or a burger at your burger place, they don't lower the price down anymore.
Right. Yeah, no, I know it's tough out there, and again, I'm glad that PoolRx has not had to rate to go up the ladder like everybody else. So we're definitely the most cost-effective solution out there, and I'm glad that we can support everybody. Again, I do appreciate you, David, having me on, and for all you do for the pool industry. All your information is so valuable to service pros out there and homeowners. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for having me on again.
Yeah, thanks, Fred.
You got it, David.
Again, for more information, head on over to their website, PoolRx.com, and there's a lot of great information there about the product. And if you're looking for the first episode in this 2-part series, you can go to my website, swimmingpoollearning.com, click on the podcast icon, and then you'll see a drop-down menu of podcasts, and you'll see yesterday's podcast right there at the top, and definitely tune into that. You can also search for the PoolRx podcast by going to that same site. In the search box, type in the word PoolRx, and then all the podcasts that I recorded with Fred will appear there also for you. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more about that at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. Pool Service Pro. Open a Leslie's wholesale account today and receive wholesale pricing on products you use every day. Leslie's Pool Supply offers convenient locations that are open 7 days a week. Another great benefit of opening a Leslie's wholesale account is Leslie's referral program. Get referred to a customer looking for weekly pool service. Save time and money and grow your pool service route and become a Leslie's Pro.